a financial difficulty. Maybe it's a problem with a child. There's a wayward child and your heart's broken. What lies ahead? Now, I can help you with that one. If it's disease and wondering what lies ahead, I can help you. You're going to die. Now, that's kind of crude and that's kind of blunt, but you're going to die. That's what's going to happen. And the truth is, we're all going to die. Disease may hasten it. But what is important is you know that you're saved. Know that you're saved. That's trying to be funny, but that's not real funny. But maybe the problem is disease. I've got a couple things myself I deal with. Maybe the problem is you realizing your parents aren't going to be here forever. There's maybe some decisions that have to be made, and they're not easy, never easy decisions. But maybe it's that. Parents are getting older. My parents are getting older. My mom just went through a really rough spell of sickness. And maybe it's that. And the truth is, we could stand here all day and not exhaust the list of problems that people are facing today. Because we need God to work in our lives. We need a touch from the Master's hand. See, we don't always need Him to lift every burden. We just, in the midst, when the problems are there, that's the heaviest burdens. We need Him to lift the heaviest burdens. We don't need Him to move every mountain. We just need Him to move the highest mountains. The highest mountains. We don't need, in effect, for God to give us the whole loaf. We just need a crumb. This Canaanite woman, she wasn't asking for a whole loaf of bread. She wasn't asking for that. She wasn't making a request of that. She wasn't saying, Lord, take care of every problem that's in my life. No, she said, Lord, even the dogs eat from the crumbs. And she was just asking for a crumb. And that's the situation that we're looking at in this passage that we read today. She was in a desperate situation. For a parent, there's not much anything more desperate and distressing than when your child needs help. When your child needs help. I remember when our son, Stephen, he had a bad car wreck. And he's just 15, but he had a bad car wreck and broke his leg, broke his femur here on his right leg. And I was the one who found him. He'd been gone a little longer than what was needed. And so he's only going a mile and a half away or so from our house and to his grandpa's, and he wasn't back, and he should have been, and he wasn't back. So I got my little truck and I went to see what happened. Got about halfway there, and our car had gone off the side of the road and had hit head on with the cement bridge, the embankment there, the wall, and there it was. Horn was blaring, and I saw the car there. And I'm going to tell you, as a parent, you kick in, the adrenaline kicks in. When he was big enough, I couldn't pick him up. As your dad, it's hard to admit that, but I couldn't pick him up. I couldn't there in his pain and his suffering, and he was hurting. And as a dad, I had to leave him there, and had to go and stop, give her different instructions. Finally, we got everyone there, and the emergency people got there and took him to the hospital. Ended up having to have a rod in his leg, and we called him Rodney for a while. And had to have a rod in his leg, and it was all. But I'm going to tell you something. In that time, in that moment, there was nothing more important as possible, because my child was hurt. But it was bad enough that she was desperate to get help. She needed something. And I'm going to tell you, better than nothing. A little crumb's better than nothing. And as I bring this message today, I want us to know and to understand that whatever your situation is today, and I'm not trying to ignore our folks that are here, but trying to get it. I hope that's not offensive, but usually I have a whole crowd and I can preach to everybody. When I have just a very few people, I feel like I'm not preaching to you, I'm preaching at you, and I'm not preaching at you at all. I'm just trying to preach the message, but it's just there's nobody else to look at. And so who holds the key to opening up the answer? We need to understand, we need desperately to understand a crumb from His hand is more than enough. Is more than enough. Truth is, if I didn't preach anymore, if I stopped right there, one thing, Caleb would say amen. But if I stop right there, that's enough. That's a message right there. A crumb from the Master's hand is more than enough. This woman, she made a petition there in verse 22. She said, my daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. This wasn't a small matter. This was a major thing going on. You look at the reason she came. Why? She's concerned about her daughter. The child was demon possessed and she needed help in a desperate way. So that's why she came. And she cried. The woman was following Jesus and following His disciples. And she wasn't just crying tears. She was hurted over someone or something. We will do what is necessary to try to get that situation fixed. Try to get that situation fixed. When we become broken-hearted, let me tell you something. When we become broken-hearted over sin in our life, we will do what is necessary to get that corrected. Whether it is for salvation, whether it is for a child of God who has gone wayward and has backslidden on the Lord. Listen, when you become broken-hearted over that, you'll take care of it. And you'll get it taken care of. Oh, listen. That brokenheartedness is important. You look at the reason she called. Mark chapter 7, in another one of the Gospels. In verse 25, it tells us this woman had heard of Him. Every place Jesus went, He sent the disciples ahead to tell people that was coming. In fact, He sent 70 of them. They went 2 by 2. 35 pairs of disciples went ahead of Him, telling people that Jesus was coming. And she said she'd heard of Him. You know, here's a question. Child of God, are you one of His disciples today? Are you one of His disciples? Are you telling others not only that He's coming, but that He is coming again? One of the most faithful people I know that would tell people that Jesus is coming again is my retarded brother. And I do not mean that burdened so that he can get saved. Listen, I don't know if Foster ever got saved or not. My mom might know.